Hello, and welcome to another edition of Rail Rangers on the Road. The Midwest Rail Rangers, our 501c3 nonprofit organization, presents onboard educational programs across the Midwest. You may have caught us on the South Shoreline, between Chicago and South Bend, Indiana, aboard the Sky Parlor car at the Wisconsin Great Northern, on an Amtrak charter organized by the 20th Century Railroad Club of Chicago, on private rail excursions featuring heritage equipment, and at various outreach events such as Train Fest and Mad City Rail. In March of 2020, the coronavirus sidelined most of our programs. After taking a few months off, we returned with virtual programs, taking you to exciting rail destinations across Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri, and Wisconsin. With 2021 now here, we hope to begin the transition back to doing in-person programs. During the months ahead, though, we will continue to bring you new virtual programs as well. So sit back and relax and enjoy another edition of Rail Rangers on the Road.
Hi everyone!
Hi everybody, it is, we are live here, about to take a special excursion on, where are we?
Well,
Oh, you got your book from 2 weeks ago.
I do. I bring this every time we come here because it's such a great book.
Yeah.
Only $15 though, so we're at the North Shore Scenic Railroad today.
Yeah, if you joined us 2 weeks ago, that was back on, June the 6th?
Yep.
June the 6th, we hope you joined us. We were at the Lake Superior Railroad Museum, which is pretty much right here where we are back here 2 weeks later. But we didn't want to jam, there's so much to see, we didn't want to jam both the train ride at the North Shore Scenic and the Lake Superior Railroad Museum all into one virtual program. So we made the drive back up here 2 weeks later. It is
not
now
too bad of a drive.
not from our Rail Ranger headquarters in Barron. It's just about an hour and a half, hour 45 minutes. You're maybe 2.5 hours north of Minneapolis. But it is, about 7:04 p.m. looking at the railroad depot clock behind me here. 7:04 p.m. on June the 20th. And we are back here. I guess we should say who we are. I'm Midwest Rail Ranger President Robert Tabor.
And I'm your educational coordinator, Candace Tabor.
And what are we going to do? We got a special ride they're going to do for us. We're going to board here in just a few minutes. And we're going to go on the Dome car.
That's right.
So do you know where we're going to go or what we're going to see today?
No, but it's going to be fun. We're going to take you along for the ride and show you what this railroad has to offer.
Yeah, we're going to go on this Dome car that's right behind us. Maybe California Zephyr Dome car. So we'll get some more information, tell you the history once we get aboard. And we're just going to have a nice leisurely ride tonight. And, talk a little bit, but we're going to point a lot of the, just let you look at a lot of the scenery and a lot of the Dome car views. So maybe we'll put some railroad music or something fun behind it as we go tonight. So we're excited to be up here again, a second part of our program up here in Dilute. So what do you say? Let's get going.
Aboard.
All aboard for the North Shore Scenic Railroad.
Green and orange tickets. We'll start boarding here in just a second. We're going to call you by last name and the order that you checked in. So it's totally fair. There's no need to line up in any way. Stay seated if you're seated. Stand in the shade, stand in the sun, stand inside, wherever you'd like to. We'll call you by last name and that would be the cue to make your way towards the train. Just got to show your ticket to get out of board. And masks are required for boarding the train and moving around on board. However, once you get seated, you can take them off. We ask you to help us with social distancing by just not crowding any boarding areas. Keep an eye behind you No need to line up whatsoever. We'll do our best to keep all social distance here as we work. First up for boarding is Tavern, party of 2. Please make your way to the boarding area. First class view, orange ticket.
Okay.
It seats 60 people. However, we have only sold 12 tickets, so you should be able to find comfortable social distancing.
All right.
There are 24 seats up above, and again, like I said, we only have 12 sold, so make yourself comfortable. Everyone loves the top, but I'm telling you, one of the best seats in the house might be down below in the last week.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. You're in the Silver Dome. This is going to be a wonderful first-class ride for you. Maybe it's a first-train ride for someone.
Oh.
Welcome, Dome. This will be your home for the next 7 days.
Well, welcome aboard, everyone. We have a few minutes before we leave. We're going to watch a short video about the history of this car from Penn from the Railroad Museum.
Cyrus Osborne worked for General Motors. More specifically, he worked for the Locomotive division, which made locomotive engines. And certainly whenever he was visiting a railroad that bought one of his engines, he got to ride up there in the cab. On one particular trip through the Colorado Glenwood Canyon area, he was looking out the windows of the cab and thought, wouldn't it be great if everybody had this view that I do right now? And he came up with an idea. So he came up with this, the 360-degree view from a glassed-in ceiling atop a regular passenger car. He called it the Vista Dome. And this is our Vista Dome from the California Zephyr, and it's today's episode on our video tour from the Lake Superior Railroad Museum at the temporarily closed St. Louis County Depot here in downtown Duluth. This car is what the Vista Dome was all about. It has 360-degree views through a glass ceiling. You can see all the way around you. You can see where the train is going. You can see where the train has been. It is the best view in the house. And it was a way to try and entice passengers back into trains and keep them out of the skies. Airlines were starting to become a competitor to the airline business, to the train business anyway. This was a way to keep them out of the air and on the train. Airlines were becoming a competitor, and the trains needed something new to compete. And they found it here in the Dome car, because this was like flying at treetop level. Our car was built by the Budd Car Company. It was built in 1948 for the California Zephyr, which was a first-class train featuring 5, count them, 5 Dome cars in the consist. As it made its way from Chicago to Oakland, California, the route was timed for the best daylight scenery. And that was something new in railroading. Show them the scenery from a Dome car. In 1948, this car 250 was Budd built and called the Silver Club. It was retired to Amtrak when Amtrak was formed in 1971, and then retired from Amtrak in 1981 after 10 years of service. Several different people owned it as a private car until it ended up with our very good friend Dirk Lenthe from Fargo, North Dakota, who donated it to the museum in 2011. Unfortunately, the car had sat outside for several years and had been severely vandalized. What Mr. Lenthe did do is he put in all new glass, and that was great. He also redid the trucks, but left us to deal with the inside of the car. Thanks to some very generous donations from our board of directors, especially Ed Robinson, donations from the Burlington Round Historical Society, and great work by the Friends of 261 down in the Twin Cities, they took this car down to the bare skin and then rebuilt it into the excellence that you see today as our first-class car on the North Shore Scenic Railroad. we're kind of reliving a little bit of that past now as we're redoing some of the carpeting that, well, when you have a first-class car that's as popular as this one, you know, there's only a few dome cars in America that you can ride on anytime you want, and ours is one of them. Obviously, the wear and tear needs to be taken care of, and that's what we're doing over the winter. We've put in new carpeting, we're redoing the upholstery on the seats, and we even restored one of the roomettes. See, this car was originally built as a dome crew dormitory car, which meant it had a lounge, it had the dome, which was the most popular part, and then where our long lounge is today was actually a dormitory for crew members of the California Zephyr, who slept on bunk beds but had a shower. There were two roomettes though, one for the steward and the other for the Zephyrette. We're redoing the car once again. We've put in new carpeting. To do that, we've taken out all the seats in the dome, putting in new carpeting, new flooring. Well, I'll tell you what, follow me, I'll show you some of the other work we've done. We're at the point right now putting everything back together. All the heavy lifting's been done. We're just going to put the seats back in, clean it up, and she'll be ready to go for this season. This car looks a little different than when it was on the railroad. For instance, there's a lounge portion forward. That was at one time called the Cable Car Lounge, celebrating scenery from San Francisco. Back where we are, in this part of the car, it was actually a dormitory. It wasn't for the passengers, it was for the workers on the train, who slept in this area on bunk beds. And they had a shower and their own bathroom. What was really neat were the two compartments. There were two compartments on the train. One was for the steward, and the other was for the Zephyret. This was the Zephyret's room. She was an early version of the stewardess in the sky. Her job was to be the nurse, although you have to admit her medical training might have been somewhat dubious. But she was the ambassador for the railroad. She was the babysitter. She was the one that made sure on that scenic route you were told when to look out the window to catch all the spectacular scenery. And her main job was to tune the radio in the dome to all the stations along the route that were pre-selected by the railroad, suitable for listening. The Zephyret was an incredible addition to railroad service, and this was her private room. We've restored it as you see it today. We're on the other side of the car, and this is that Cable Car Lounge that I told you about. Back in the day, of course, it was San Francisco. Here, it's Dilute. We had a cable car of our own called the Incline, so we've named this, in keeping with tradition, the Incline Lounge, as opposed to the Cable Car Lounge. Follow me to the galley. On the way to the galley, we passed the other lounge, not the Cable Car Lounge. We named this one after Mr. Lengthy. It's an area underneath the dome. It was also an area where you could get service out of the galley. At one time, there was a window here, and cocktails and refreshments could be passed through the window to people sitting down here in the Lengthy Lounge. This on the wall is the famous Zephyr. This was the logo for the California Zephyr. Zephyr meaning west wind, and here he is, the west wind himself. We added this because we thought it added a more mystique to the car, but there was a glass panel here. Let's take a further look at what was behind this back when it was a galley. Here's where the steward worked. We're in the process of restoring this area as well, but you can see over here how they just paneled over that service door. We're going to have everything right through there just like they did. We're putting in refrigeration this winter. This is another service door, and this one was from outside the car, and it allowed you to load in all the essentials that you needed, along with everything that, of course, would be used on the car, could easily be loaded through here and right into the galley. Outside, the car looks pretty much the way it did back when it was on the California Zephyr. The railroads marketed their dome cars quite heavily, and they all had different names for them too. On the Great Northern's Empire Builder, where they had a full dome over the top of the entire car, they called it the Great Dome. Atchison, Topeka, Santa Fe had the Pleasure Dome. The B&O, they called theirs the Strata Dome. The Milwaukee Road had their Super Dome. That was pretty good. And of course, on the Missouri Pacific, they called theirs the Planetarium Dome. And On the North Coast Limited, for the Northern Pacific, the Vista Dome reigns supreme. Now today, if you have a very rich friend who owns a private car that has a dome on top, you probably get to ride with them. But not a lot of us have that. So instead, you ride ours on the North Shore Scenic Railroad 7 days a week in the summer when the railroad is up and running. It's our first-class service, and it is memorable. We'll be back tomorrow with another memorable edition of our Vista Tours. On the dome or underneath, you get the best view in town right here. In the meantime, let's do what we know we have to do. Wash our hands, cover our coughs, don't touch your face, keep that social distance, and please, take care of each other.
But we're going to go up by the lake today, and she's putting on a show. You know, we've had a lot of sunshine days, but she gives variety regardless of what the weather is like. Yesterday there were so many rainbows over that lake. Everybody was posting. Did you see them? Were you here? They just kept popping up rainbows everywhere. So maybe we'll get a rainbow yet this evening before the storms come in. My name is Deb. You can call me anything you want because I know you paid a lot for a first class ride. But I'm going to tell you something. This coach was built in 1948, so let's forget 2020. Let's leave it behind us. It's 1948, and we're in the Zephyr Silver Dome, and the Silver Dome travels from Chicago to San Francisco, and she's not alone on the tracks. She's got 3 more, so there's 4 or 5 just like her that are bubbles, because the goal was to beat those airplanes, get them out of the air, get people traveling across the country in the Scenic Dome trains. So in 1948, when this train was on the road, any other day you might get a host or a hostess, but you got me today because we're in 1948 and there was always a Zephyrette, and the Zephyrette was always a woman. She made sure the children were well behaved and happy, and there was also always on the train a porter. And the porter was always a man, and he was always a black man. And if you look back in the history of people who went on to be successful after black men became free, you'll almost always find a porter in their life, because that was one of the first good jobs for a black man to be employed and to see the world. However, I'm going to tell you about a lot of things that our executive director, Ken Bueller, says if you work it hard enough, everything goes back to the trains, and it does. The first union of black men workers was the porters in the United States. That was the first unionization.
I think that's first the ones.
Wait, what?
Oh, she's saying thank you.
Oh.
You know, you guys, that's the hostess. That's who you would get any other day. She does it very different than I do it. So you can hold your hand up and tell me to be quiet, because my problem is I got 2 kids that don't want me here working. And one's in California, and said, if you don't want me working, come back. The other one's a musician down in Minneapolis, and he's not making music except, you know, in his basement. So I said, my joy is selling the city I love, Duluth, to people who come on the train. So that's why I'm here. But if I start talking too much, just put your hand up and I'll be quiet. The narration will tell everything. But I do want to bring you 2 complimentary beverages, and I'm going to bring you a snack. And if you don't like my snack, there's a concession car right there, but you'll have to pay for that. And be careful if you're walking in it when the train is moving, because it's an old baggage car and it's going to wobble a little bit. But you're free to roam the entire train. We've got behind that baggage or concession car, there's a Great Northern. Behind that, there's another Great Northern. And you guys might want to go back. There is a car older than I am. It is 102 years old. It's the car 33. It's the only Pullman on the train. It's the only heavyweight on the train. And that car was in the movie Iron Will, a 1995 Disney movie, if anyone saw it. And it says it takes off in Alaska. And if you look at the stone building as we get going up the hill with the big clock on it, that's Alaska for that movie. The car Northland in our museum is in that movie, and the engine that pulled it in. If any of you really love train history, we have 100 videos that are 5 to 7 minutes long, that when we were shut down, our executive director wrote on all of the equipment in there and the history of that building. And so that's why I really want to say to you today, thank you. Because while you're not getting the China and the crystal and the silver that you would get in a first-class car back in 1948. Your support of railroad history is keeping the lights on and the inventory and the history of railroads alive in that museum, which has been written up as the best transportation museum in the United States. So thank you. What you're doing today is keeping us on track. I don't like fake news, and I told you I talk a lot, but I'm going to tell you a couple of things that bother me. We're being pulled by a diesel today. So they're going to tell you when you hear the whistle, you can get off. You're not going to hear a whistle because we're not being pulled by a steam engine. We're not running these this year. A steam engine has a whistle, a diesel has a horn. They're going to tell you that we're going to back out of here. Well, there's a word that I like that they probably tell you when you get to go in school. Don't shove. Well, that word started with the history of trains, because trains don't back out, they shove. That engine's going to shove us down the track and get us out of here for a good ride. And I'm already talking too much in this meeting. That scares me so much, so I better get some orders on what you'd like to drink, and I'll take your beverage order and I'll get back.
Kim will be your hosts during the excursion. Today's trip will take us through downtown Dilute, then along the shoreline of Lake Superior. We'll leave Erikson Park, we'll climb up Lemon Drop Hill, and into the historic Common District. We'll then travel to the neighborhood of Lakeside, where we will pause to turn around and come back.
The Lake Superior Railroad Museum, where we are departing from, is open 7 days a week, and we encourage everyone to go through the depot at some point after we return to check out the ever-changing displays that we have for your enjoyment and the preservation of the rich history of our area. You'll also get a discounted admission with purchase of the train ticket you already have.
The Duluth Depot itself houses 4 different museums, including the Lake Superior Railroad Museum, St. Louis County Historical Society, Duluth Art Institute, and Veterans Memorial Hall, all included with the same admission.
During today's excursion, we'll be talking about points of interest on both the lakeside and land side of the train. This will become more obvious in just a few minutes.
As you may have noticed, we are currently backing up. When Interstate 35, running parallel to the track, was built about 30 years ago, it changed our railroad's original route to the North Shore. So now we back out of the historic Union Depot to the spot where we can switch tracks. We will then be on the other side of the freeway and travel up the lakefront line.
On board our train today, we have several friendly staff and crew members to help make your journey as pleasant as possible. In our concession area today,
Thank
we
you.
can help to keep your stomachs full with snack items such as candy and chips, and your mouths wet with a variety of sodas, juices,
Cheers
water,
to
and
all our
various
viewers
alcohol
tonight.
beverages.
You probably already met our conductor, who collected your ticket as you got on the train. The conductor is in charge of safety and the overall operation of our train today. If you have questions, feel free to ask any one of us. We'd be delighted to be of assistance. The engineer is the operator of the train locomotive, along with a fireman who will help with throwing switches and coupling and uncoupling of cars a little later in the trip. All of the engineers, firemen, conductors, and maintenance crews of the North Shore Scenic Railroad are volunteers. We are very fortunate to have such dedicated crew members who donated over 18,000 hours just last year alone to keep our railroad working safely. We truly could not operate without the hard work of our volunteers.
When we were boarding, I noticed a few of you with cameras and smartphones that have cameras in them. Photography is encouraged, and I invite you to take many, many pictures. We hope that you'll upload these photos to our Facebook page, which is North Shore Scenic Railroad, or our Twitter and Instagram handle at Duluth Trains. We can also be found on TripAdvisor, where you can leave feedback for us after the trip.
Here at the North Shore Scenic Railroad, safety is our first concern. You are free to move through the train, but please be careful as you do, for there is a lot of side-to-side movement, especially in the concession car. As you walk through the train, please keep a hand on the back of the seats or something sturdy. Please always walk on the train. There is no running allowed. If you walk through the area between the cars, known as the vestibules, shoes must be worn and laces tied. Children must be accompanied by an adult at all times. This is for their safety as well as a courtesy to other passengers. Children must be sitting in their seats and not standing on them, Again, this is for their safety as well as a respect to our historic equipment. There is also no smoking on the train. Please do not hang out of the open air car, concession car gates, or any of the open windows. Please keep your arms, hands, legs, and head inside the cars at all times, as there is foliage and other trackside structures that can and will come in contact with you.
If it starts to rain, please take extra caution while walking from car to car, since the metal walkway can be very slippery. There are several restrooms available on the train today, in almost each car. Some of the restrooms have running water to wash your hands, but we ask you do not drink it.
Why did it stop? Peter, we can't drink Mountain Dew because folks from like home.
Minneapolis area.
What did you say?
Eden Prairie.
Eden Prairie, okay.
Why
Boy,
did
that's
we
grown
do
a lot since I come to
Go
Vista
back.
Dome. It was a lot of farm country, I'm sure
Yeah.
there's none anymore.
Just not any of them.
What's that?
That's a big word, see if you can read that big word. 'Cause
Thank
I didn't know that word before I worked in this train.
Thank you.
Wait, what big words? Which one? Oh, Blackwood?
Charcuterie.
Blackwood? Oh,
It's first class, what's that word?
charcuterie.
You are a French whiz, that was beautiful.
I'm just in first, second grade.
Oh my goodness, that's lovely.
I think
Onto the lake side of the train, you will see a large red ship. This is the Brewery, which was once the flagship of the United States Steamship Great Lakes fleet. It was built in 1938 and is 610 feet long. The Irvin sailed on Lake Superior for 40 years and was retired in 1978. It was moved to this slip in 1986 and is on the National Register of Historic Places. It is now a museum open to the public for tours. Modern ships are a bit bigger than the Irvin. The Paul R. Tregurtha is currently the largest ship on the Great Lakes, which dwarfs the Irvin at 1,014 feet.
BC.
don't eat the red thing. Just eat the olive. I'll eat the olive. I'll eat it.
We're going to go through a short tunnel that is underneath Lake Place Park. It's home to the Sister Cities International Sculpture Garden. As we exit the tunnel, you'll see the greatest of the Great Lakes, the largest lake on the entire planet, Lake Superior. And now, on the lake side of the train.
Ooh.
Do you think?
If you look out onto the lake, you will see a red buoy that marks the spot where the edge of Duluth's original outer harbor breakwater was built in 1868. This was not an ideal place for a harbor since there was little protection from the harsh waves and weather that come off the lake. Today, the buoy marks the right side of the shipping channel, preventing boats from wandering to the area where many obstructions from the old outer harbor remain.
Wait, it's red or black.
Coming up on the lake side of the train are several veteran and war memorials, including the Korean and Vietnam memorials that honor those from the Northland who lost their lives in these respective wars. You'll also notice a large ship anchor. This is from the USS Dilute, which was recently decommissioned and scrapped. Veterans that served on the ship saved its anchor and brought it here in 2014 with the help of the railroad you're on right now, which hauled the anchor into place on a flat car. The anchor rests here in honor of all the veterans of the naval services who served on the USS Duluth.
The Vickers Brewery is now above the wall on the land side of the train. It is Dilute's first brewery, originally founded by Sidney Luce in 1857. The current brewery was constructed in 1882, and its name, A. Vicker and Company, came in 1884 from August Vicker and other shareholders. Production of their beer continued for 40 years until Prohibition began in 1920. Many breweries shut down during this time, but Vickers stayed open by making candy bars and bottling soda pop. Vickers was one of only 11 national breweries to survive and brew again after Prohibition was repealed in 1933. And the fun started all over again.
That's right. Business boomed, and Vickers bottled 100,000 barrels a year through the 1930s. The doors of the Vickers Brewery were finally closed in 1972, ending 115 years of brewing. The building was renovated and reopened in 1984 with a 48-room hotel, eventually adding shopping, dining, a new brewery, and other entertainment. Today, Vickers is a great place to visit while you're in Duluth. We are now entering Leif Erikson Park, named after the famous Viking explorer. Leif Erikson is believed to be the first European to set foot in the New World. Historians believe he beat Christopher Columbus here by 500 years. As we pass by Leif Erikson Park, you may see the park stage. It is the large stone structure built in the late 1930s as a WPA, Works Progress Administration project, and home to many outdoor events here in Duluth, including every Friday night's free movies in the park during the summer.
No free movies in the park this year, but tomorrow night out of the Dex parking lot, it's the outdoor movie Life of a Dog.
Although not visible from the train, above us on the land side is the Dilute Rose Garden, located at the northeast end of Leif Erikson Park. The perennial garden is built around a stone fountain that was gifted to the city of Duluth in 1905 in honor of pioneer George C. Stone. The Rose Garden is cared for by the city of Duluth and is in bloom from late June through the summer, and is among many highly suggested places to visit here in Duluth.
The Rose Garden right now is beautiful and fragrant, and if you ride on London Road, if you get around the Security Street detours, there's free parking there, and it's a little 5-minute walk that takes you into another place, a fantasy place. And there's a good malt shop right next door to it too, that's outside.
Hit that on the way home?
So that's a fun little 5-minute tour.
Now traveling parallel to us on the land side of the train is Interstate 35. It begins at 26th Avenue East here in Duluth, which is just a few blocks up from where we are right now, and ends all the way down in Laredo, Texas, 1,591 miles away at the U.S.-Mexico border. Back here in Duluth, right at 26th Avenue East, you'll find Blackwood's Bar and Grill, a fantastic Duluth restaurant with locations in Proctor and Two Harbors as well. Train fans, you'll love its G-scale model railroad that travels throughout the restaurant. You'll find a coupon on the back of your ticket for a few dollars off at Blackwood's. This location was once a railroad yard with a train station called Indian. This industrial neighborhood of Duluth was removed when the freeway was extended, and the attractive Indian Depot building was moved by trucks to Canal Park, where it can be found today. We have now begun our climb up Lemon Drop Hill. More on that in just a moment. But between our train and the lake, you'll see a paved walkway known as the Dilute Lake Walk. It begins in Canal Park at the foot of the aerial lift bridge and wraps along the Lake Superior shoreline to Brighton Beach Park, a distance of 7.3 miles. The Lake Walk is enjoyed by walkers, joggers, inline skaters, bicyclists, and leashed pets.
And I'd like to brag because there's some condos, they'll talk about them coming up right here, but we have a Blizzard snowmobile tour in January, and it is the largest ALS fundraiser in
The townhomes on the lake side of the train are part of Beacon Point Condominiums and Resort. These were built about 10 years ago and sell between $500,000 and $700,000. The next group of homes on the lakeside are a little larger and more upscale. They sell for over $1 million each.
And I talked about the Blizzard Tour because they raise money for ALS, compliments of the Minnesota Twins and our snowmobile manufacturers, Arcat and Ski, and they allow someone in end of life with ALS to live complimentary in those condos. And so I think that's a pretty good thing when we talk about all of our volunteers in Duluth that run our trains, that run our Bentleyville. They also house people in end of life with ALS.
Thank you.
Not taking anything away anymore.
We are now approaching the second tunnel on our excursion. It's at 26th Avenue East, where I-35 ends and becomes London Road. Our train has just completed a climb of about 50 feet over the past half mile of track, climbing what we call Lemon Drop Hill. For the runners of Grandma's Marathon, held each June, heading from Two Harbors to Duluth's finish line at Canal Park, this is the most difficult part of the whole race, as the marathon course goes uphill, which crosses above the tunnel we are going through. Lemon Drop Hill is named after a family-owned restaurant that once stood near the railroad tracks and was called the Lemon Drop Cafe. Oh yes, there was a dish of lemon drop candies right at the checkout stand.
The train is now entering Condon Park, an area named after Chester A. Condon, who built the famous Convention from 1905 to 1908. Chester Condon was a lawyer, businessman, and philanthropist who fell in love with the Duluth area. The mansion he built is a neo-Jacobean-style home and has 39 rooms that reflect life at the turn of the century.
The Condon family selected the land for their mansion in part because it's so private. It's buffeted by Lake Superior to the south and London Road to the north. The Condons purchased the lot to the east, and a cemetery forms the western border. Mrs. Condon wanted quiet neighbors.
Glensheen is now owned and operated by the University of Minnesota Duluth and is open to the public for tours. It had its share of fame with Hollywood. In 1972, the famous actress Patty Duke was at the mansion, starring in the thriller You'll Like My Mother. In 1992, Patty Duke signed Mackenzie Aston also came to Duluth to star in the Disney movie Iron Will, which used some of Lake Superior Railroad Museum's equipment.
Of course, there was also a famous double homicide that occurred at Glensheen on June 27th of 1977. Elizabeth Condon and her nightmares were brutally murdered by the husband of one of Miss Condon's adopted daughters. The notoriety of this event was a national story and brought infamous attention to the already fascinating history of the Glensheen estate.
Glensheen is Duluth's very own retail locality that is open for tours all year round.
Thank
We're
you.
slowing down right now to
You
cross
want
two
the same, or
bridges.
did you want to switch to
Now is a good
something
time
else?
to grab your cameras. First bridge is a street
Lemonade.
overpass.
Or me?
Lemonade.
To the
Lemonade?
lakeside
I'll do
of the
two.
train, you'll see
Lemonade,
the
too.
cemetery of Glen Sheen's western
Lemonade.
border.
You guys
The
don't
second
want to split
bridge
this
is over
one.
Tissue
Well,
Creek.
we could do
also known
that.
as
That's fine.
Congdon Creek,
Looks like you still
because
got
it
one
flows
more.
directly
Yeah.
through
Yeah.
the Congdon Estate.
I'll take the
Family
lemonade.
which built
I
Glen
don't
She's
Sheen
gotta
want
drive
having a
home.
tough drive
Bridge
there.
Road is 107 feet long and stands 40 feet above the water.
Just not take my mask.
It's good. Good brand.
Oh, then why didn't you want it?
Because I'm not that good of a drinker.
Oh.
No, these are allowed to carry that. I can't let you carry that off the tree.
Oh, we won't. Yeah. Scotto.
Crane Lake.
Okay. Is it good?
It's wonderful. You
No?
should try it.
I don't know. You can't drink on the job, you know. Rail Ranger. Form G.
Not in uniform.
Nah. People can virtually drink and have Moscato. There's our snack, by the way. Some kind of peppers and meat and cheese kind of thing. Crackers. Okay. First class. Sure it. Yeah, I don't know if that's what you normally get during normal times, but a little snack.
If you look to the land side of the train, you'll see a large building and sports field. This is the new East High School, location of the former Ordine Middle School, which was named for Albert I. Ordine. Mr. Ordine purchased this land from Northland Country Club, which had planned to use the property as a 6-hole golf course and actually had fairways split by Superior Street. Balls would fly directly over the street. The idea of the golf course was abandoned, and Mr. Ordine gave the property to the city of Dilute. It was to be used as a recreational field, and in 1928, when Mr. Ordine passed away, he left money for equipment for the playing field. In 1954, the city of Duluth transferred the property to the Board of Education, and construction began on the school. It served first as a junior high, then as a middle school, and now as a state-of-the-art East High School. Go Greyhounds!
Now there's a lady that always comes out and waves at the train. She has to be,
Minnesota became a state on May 11th, 1838.
Is she coming up soon? Okay.
Dilute has a very unique shape as it is 27 miles long and only about 3 miles wide. This is, of course, due to the geography of the area along the shore of Lake Superior, which has a huge impact on Dilute's weather. Mark Twain is often quoted as saying, "The coldest winter I ever spent was a summer in Duluth."
Duluth has had its share of famous people get their start here. The Great Lakes Aquarium is built on the former site of Jimmy Ward's Lane Restaurant, which was famous as today, dockside service for pleasure boaters. A relative of Jimmy Ward's, David Ward, invented the Ward vacuum cleaner and was also from Duluth. Famous musician Robert Zimmerman, also known as Bob Dylan, lived and started his career here in Duluth. Don LaFontaine, the famous movie trailer announcer for coining the term came from Duluth. And novelist Sinclair Lewis had his start here, as did industrialist Gino Palucci, and hockey superstar Brett Hull, all called Duluth home.
We are now entering the historic and beautiful neighborhood called Lakeside. The lake is not directly visible from most of this area from the train, but the neighborhood is situated here on the east end of the city, nestled along Lake Superior's shore, only a few blocks away.
This neighborhood was originally known and plotted to be the village called London by May of 1871, and eventually became known as New London. The area was incorporated as the village of Lakeside in 1889 and became part of the city of Duluth 4 years later. Built to service this neighborhood, London Road has become one of the most traveled thoroughfares in the city.
Lakeside hasn't always been the peaceful neighborhood you see today. Much of it was destroyed in the Great Fire of 1918. This fire actually started south of Cloquet, Minnesota, about 20 miles south of Duluth. On October 10, 1918, a passenger train was traveling from Duluth to Hibbing, and some local people reported seeing a small column of smoke next to the tracks. Minnesota was in the middle of a 2-year drought, and with a pile of very dry wood as fuel, combined with very high winds, there was no stopping the fire from erupting. By October 12th, the fire had spread all the way to Lakewood Township, just past the eastern edge of Duluth. Most of the homes and buildings in Lakeside and surrounding areas were destroyed by the fire. More than 250,000 acres were burned that year in Minnesota, and 38 communities were destroyed. The fires caused $73 million in damage, which is $1.2 billion in today's money. Trains were used to evacuate areas, but not before 453 people perished in the Great Fire of 1918.
All right, everyone, let's go for a cab ride.
You are Zach?
That's right.
All right. So you're going to tell us how to run a locomotive, huh?
Yeah.
All right.
We got a minute here if you want to come take a look at the basic controls.
All right. So is there a key to this? You like a car key?
The closest thing you get to a key is this. It's a reversing key.
Ah.
It locks in there. But if you don't have this, you can't move the locomotive.
Okay.
Get it in there and you're ready to go.
Any auto start? No remote start like for your car?
No,
Oh, okay.
Start buttons are all up on the back panel.
Okay.
This is the throttle. This chooses your direction. This is the train brake.
Okay.
That applies all the brakes on the cars. This applies the locomotive brake.
All right. This take a lot to learn. How many years have you done this?
I've been at railroading about 3 years now.
3 years. Okay.
It's taken me about a year or so to go from engineer trainee all the way up to engineer.
Okay. So a little bit of a training program.
Now we got all the electrical switches here. These do various things. Most lights over here, and then there's a whole bunch of stuff over here. This controls your lights too. Got the rear, went to the front. Now and then it's in the middle, they're both dim.
Okay. Well, what's your favorite run the North Shore Scenic Railroad does?
The favorite run is probably the Knife River run.
Okay.
We don't have to bother with Canadian National because sometimes they'll delay us, and that's no fun for anybody.
Okay.
But Knife River, it's a nice long trip. You get people to go to the depot there,
Okay.
and they can take a swim, and eventually we'll have a passing signing put in there, so we don't need to worry about running around. Because right now we go all the way up to Marbles, which is just outside of Two Harbors, about 5 miles north of Knife River.
Okay.
To run around.
Very cool. What's the most challenging thing about running a locomotive?
The most challenging thing about running a locomotive is probably managing your air brakes. When you take the class, it's called air brake and train handling.
Okay.
It's not locomotive school. It's air brake first,
Okay.
and then the air brake plays into how you handle a train.
And what's your top speed out here on the North Shore?
Well, north of town, we'll get up to 30 miles an hour, but in town we do what's called restricted speed. The fastest we'll do is 20 miles an hour, but you're supposed to go only as fast so that you can stop within half the range of your vision.
Okay. Very cool. So what are we going to be doing now?
So we're waiting on all the passengers to get off. And once they're off, we're going to go that way about 50 feet, pick up the dining cars. Go all the way down there.
Okay.
Put away the open air car. So we're going to hook back onto this end of the train for tonight's pizza train. And we'll be going to Knife River for the pizza train, so we got to have engines on both ends because we don't have a siding there. So this is going to be about where it is right now. For the.
Are you going to be the engineer for the pizza train too, or?
I will not.
You know.
Dave will be. He's
Dave.
the engineer of record today.
Okay. So how far the tracks that we came in on? Do those go all the way to Superior then, or where do they? If we kept going?
If you keep going, you'll end up all the way in Superior and then the Twin Cities.
Oh, okay. So they do go through then if we kept.
Yep.
Okay.
Harry to the 245.
Go ahead, over.
Are you guys going to take off the open air car first or get the diner first?
Let's get the diner over.
Alright, Roger. Elena still wants to the train. Oh, never mind. She is. Give us the all clear. Everyone's off the train. I'm making my way to the dining car now. Just a heads up. Try to be nice and gentle because I know the dining car is pretty close to that truck up there.
Roger. Nice to meet you. Over.
That's correct, over. Alley to 193, going on the clear.
Hey, it's 245. Over.
Yeah, 245 alley going in between.
Offset instead of 245. So what we just did is there's somebody on the train who wants to go in between the cars, make an adjustment, hang here, open an angle cock, something like that. So we have 3-step protection. It used to be known as three point. Now we call it in between. But there's still 3 steps.
245, I'm in the clear. Just make your way north. Just under 1 coach, 2 points.
Roger, about a coach, ground point, 245, going north.
That's correct.
There's still 3 steps. That's centering the reverser, applying the locomotive brake, and turning the gen field off.
Okay.
We are moving on this. Half the coach. little bump. Yeah, I guess we give her a little more of a bump. That will do. Go ahead and stretch them. Oh, it looks good. It didn't quite make anywhere in there will do. Alright, you can try her again. We got about 4 feet to a joint.
Roger, back 4 feet, 245.
That's correct, over. Little bit of up. That will do. Stretch them.
Offset center, 245.
Roger, thanks.
All right. Well, we are off the train now.
That was an awesome ride.
That was. Want to mention there are several options when you come up here. We did this tonight. We just did their Dilute Zephyr train, which is their shortest or I guess their standard excursion.
Yes.
But there's a lot of options up here. We just went basically to, as you saw, to the city limits of Duluth tonight. You know, we just wanted to take you on an intro. Oh, look, there's our dome car behind us we just rode. But there's also a dinner train. There's, you can see over here, there's the Domino's Pizza. Everybody loves Domino's
Pizza train.
Domino's Pizza train. There's the dinner train that you can ride. And then they have excursions that go all the way up to Two Harbors, which is kind of the end of the line. Yeah, so that's a nice, and you know, you get to see more of the beautiful Lake Superior shoreline. Okay, so
very awesome.
So this is the standard ride we took you on tonight, but we hope that you will come back and maybe do this one or one of their longer rides. We'll go ahead and put their website up right here before we go, so check it out right here. Yeah, so we hope you enjoyed the ride tonight, and we'll have another virtual education program for you coming up on when's the next program? I think it's 2 weeks from tonight. We're just doing these every 2 weeks. Also, I guess most of the summer here as well.
So happy Independence Day on our next virtual tour.
Is that when it is? 2 weeks. Oh, I guess it is. I can't believe, boy, time is just flying. 2 weeks
4th of July.
2 weeks from tonight is the 4th of July, July 4th, 2021. So we'll still do our programs at 7 o'clock that night.
That's right. So you have plenty of time to go outside and
still see the fireworks. So we're still going to do it on July 4th, huh?
Let's do it. Let's keep this puppy rolling.
All right. Well, we'll see you.
Train. That's
this train. Yeah. Next virtual program with the Midwest Rail Rangers. Mark your calendars. 2 weeks from tonight, July 4th, 2021. Until then, enjoy your ride. Come up and ride with the Lake Superior Railroad Museum and the North Shore Scenic Railroad. We had a great time tonight.
That's right. See you next time.
Bye.